Hello everyone, my name is Sachin and I welcome all of you to my YouTube channel. Today we are exploring one of the most influential and practical books in the field of cultural memory, that is Research Methods for Memory Studies by Michael Pickering and Emile Keatley. If you are a researcher working on narrative, identity, trauma, oral history, communication, literature, or cultural studies, this book has something valuable for you. It not only explains what memory is, but also how we can study it reasonably, ethically, and creatively. In this video, I'll break down the key ideas of the book, highlight important research methods, and help you understand how you can apply these approaches in your academic work. Today's video will begin with an overview of the book's purpose and significance. In later parts, we will dive deeper into concepts, methods, strengths, and how you can use this book in your research. So let's begin our journey into the fascinating world of memory studies. So friends, let us start exploring the opening chapter of Pickering and Keatley's book, The Introduction, Methodological Premises and Purposes, which has been obviously written by Michael Pickering and Emily Keatley. This section lays the foundation for the entire text and explains why memory studies needs a clear and thoughtful methodological approach. So, why memory needs methodology? Here, the authors begin by highlighting something very important. That is, memory isn't just something we have, it's something we do. It is an active social, cultural, and even political practice. Because of this, studying memory requires method that can capture its complexity. Pickering and Keatley argue that memory research must be both flexible and sensitive because memories involve emotions, identity, and lived experience. A rigid mechanical approach simply won't work. Second, they say that memory as a social and cultural phenomena. So that is the another key idea in this introduction is that memory does not exist in isolation. The authors emphasize that our memories are shaped by social context, by families, communities, institutions, and media. This means any method we use must consider not only individual experience but also collective frameworks. Memory, therefore, becomes a bridge between personal life and broader culture. Now, what is the need for interdisciplinary approaches? Here, Pickering and Keatley underline that memory studies cannot be confined to a single discipline. Whether you come from sociology, literature, anthropology, media studies, or history, memory research demands an interdisciplinary mindset. This opens up a wide range of methodological options from interviews and oral histories to archival research, narrative analysis, ethnography, and visual methods. What about ethics and responsibility? Here, they gave a powerful message in this introduction is the emphasis on ethics. Memory research often deals with trauma, personal histories, personal stories, sensitive histories, and vulnerable narrators. The authors insist that researchers must approach memory with care, empathy, and responsibility because every memory shared is an act of trust. Now, what is the purpose of this book? Finally, the authors clarify their mission to provide a clear, practical, and thoughtful guide to studying memory. They are not offering a rigid framework, but a toolkit, one that encourages researchers to choose the right method for the right context while being mindful of the emotional and social dimensions involved. So, the introduction sets the tone for the entire book. It reminds us that memory is complex, layered, and deeply human, and that our research methods must reflect this complexity. In the next section of the video, we will explore the key methodological traditions that the authors discuss and how they shape contemporary memory studies. So, stay with me, we are just getting started. Now, we move into one of the most foundational areas of memory studies, that is, memory and identity. In this in this section, we have two chapters. First is Autobiographical Memory by Robin Fibush, and second is Oral History and Remembering by Joanna Burnett. So first of all, we'll start with Autobiographical Memory by Robin Fibush. Here, Robin Fibush focuses on autobiographical memory, which is the memory we have of our own life events, our childhood moments, our family stories, the turning points that define us. Fibish argues that autobiographical memory is not just a record of what happened, it's actually a way of making meaning. We don't simply recall events, we interpret them, narrate them, and weave them into a personal story. One of the key insights of Piyush is that identity is built through narrative. The stories we tell about ourselves, how we succeeded, how we struggled, how we survived, create a sense of who we are. Therefore, autobiographical memory is selective, where we choose what to remember. It is interpretive, where we shape our memories, and it is emotional, which kind of guides our feelings and the feelings that stays with us. Here, Frivish also highlights the social dimension. Our memories are shaped through conversations, especially within families. The way parents talk to children about past events helps children form a coherent sense of self. So, in simple terms, we remember in order to understand ourselves, and through remembering, we become ourselves. Second chapter is Oral History and Remembering, which is by Joanna Burnett. So here, moving from individual memory to collective memory, Joanna Burnett explores the rich field of oral history, which is the practice of recording people's personal narratives and life experiences. Burnett argues that oral histories are much more than interviews, they are acts of remembering, where individuals revisit the past, reinterpret events, and express emotions that may never have been recorded elsewhere. Burnett explains that oral history plays an important role in preserving the memories of ordinary people, giving voice to marginalized communities, challenging official written histories. One of our most powerful points is that remembering during an oral history session is an active process. People are not simply narrating, they are reconstructing their past, sometimes confronting painful experiences and often discovering new meaning in them. Burnett also stresses the ethical responsibility of the researcher over here. He says that when someone shares their memories, they are offering something deeply personal. Listening, empathy, and respect are essential on the part of the researcher over here. Now, connecting the two, memory, identity, and voice. While Fibush and Warnett approach memory from different angles, one psychological, one historical, they both highlight an important truth. Memory and identity are inseparable. Our personal identity is shaped by the stories we tell about ourselves. Our social identity is shaped by the stories our communities pass down. Together, autobiographical memory and oral history show how remembering helps us make sense of our own life and the world we belong to. So, that's section 1, memory and identity. This part of the book helps us see memory not as a fixed archive, but as a living, evolving narrative that shapes who we are as individuals and as societies. In the next part of the video, we'll explore how memory interacts with time, narrative, and cultural practices. So, stay tuned for more. Now we move into the qualities of memory, what memory is like, how it feels, and how it operates across personal and social worlds. Here we will be looking at two key contributors, that is Stephen D. Brown and Paula Reeves' discussion of experience and memory, and Sabina Mihile's analysis of official and vernacular memories. So let's get dive in. So here Brown and Reeve begin with a simple but profound idea. Memory is rooted in experience, in what we have lived, felt, sensed, and embodied. They argue that memory is not just a mental or cognitive process, it is deeply tied to our physical, emotional, and sensory experiences. The authors highlight several important qualities of memory. That is, memory is embodied. We don't only remember with the mind, we remember with the body. A smell, a sound, or a gesture can instantly bring the past back to life. Memory is spatial. Places hold memories. Streets, rooms, landscapes, and cities store emotional traces of what happened there. Third, memory is emotional. Here, feelings are not separate from memory. They shape what we remember and how we interpret it. Fourth, memory is reconstructive. We don't replay memories like videos. We rebuild them each time, influenced by our current experiences and emotions. As Brown and Reeve emphasize, memory is therefore alive, active, and dynamic, and deeply intertwined with how we perceive the world around us. Now we shift from the personal to the political with Sabina Mihile's chapter. He introduces a powerful distinction between official memory and vernacular memory. Now, what are these two types of memory? First of all, we'll discuss official memory. This is the memory promoted by states, institutions, governments, and authorities. It appears in textbooks, national holidays, public monuments, museums, political speeches. Official memory often tells a polished, selective story of the past, one that supports national identity or political stability. Second is vernacular memory. This is the memory of everyday people, families, communities, minority groups, marginalized voices. It is found in family stories, local traditions, personal archives, community rituals, and informal conversations. Now, vernacular memory may challenge or contradict the official version of history. Mihal's key argument is that memory is shaped by the tension between these two forces. States try to define how the past should be remembered, but people remember it in their own ways, shaped by personal experience and cultural background. Now, this tension is crucial for understanding collective memory. Who gets to decide what is remembered? Which voices are heard and which are silenced? How do communities resist dominant narratives? Together, these two chapters show that memory is both deeply personal and deeply political. Brown and Reeve reveal how memories live in the body and the senses. Mihalis shows how memories also live in cultural power structures. When we study memory, we must pay attention to both levels, how individuals feel the past and how societies organize it. That brings us to the end of this section, two qualities of memory. Now we move into an increasingly important dimension of memory studies, the role of media. Media doesn't just record the past, it actively shapes how we remember it. So now we'll look at two chapters that explore this deeply, Anne Gray's analysis of televised memory and Michael Pickering and Emily Keatley's discussion of vernacular remembering. So let's begin. Anne Gray examines how television influences collective memory, often becoming one of the primary ways through which societies remember the past. According to Gray, television doesn't simply show events, it frames, interprets, and repackages them for public consumption. Television functions like a public archive, capturing wars, elections, disasters, celebrations, and everyday life. What gets shown and how it's shown depends on editorial choices, political climates, and cultural values. TV reinforces memory through repetition, anniversary specials, documentaries, replayed footage, and news retrospectives. Events like 9/11, the fall of the Berlin Wall, or major natural disasters become etched into collective consciousness because television replays them again and again. Television also uses emotion, music, narration, visuals to shape how viewers feel about events. This emotional framing influences how we remember and interpret the past. For many people, watching historical events unfold on TV becomes a shared memory. Where were you when you saw this on TV? In this way, television builds a sense of collective identity. Anne Gray ultimately shows that televised memory is powerful because it blends storytelling, emotion, and public visibility, creating a collective sense of what the past means. Now we shift from large-scale media institutions to the everyday world of personal and community memory through vernacular remembering. Here, Pickering and Keatley look at how ordinary people remember the past using their own cultural practices, media tools, and social interactions. While television represents official mass media, vernacular remembering is rooted in everyday media, family photos, diaries and letters, local newspapers, home videos, digital platforms like WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram. These small, intimate forms of media preserve memories that might never enter public history. Vernacular memory is a bottom up form of remembering created by communities, families, friends, and individuals. It reflects personal experiences, local histories, and emotional wounds. Just like in earlier chapters, Pickering and Keatley show how vernacular memory often challenges official versions of the past. A family story may contradict national history, a community's memories may resist political narratives. Everyday remembering keeps alternative histories alive. Vernacular media help people express who they are through photos, recorded stories, digital posts, and shared memories. This is identity building at a grassroots level. Together, these chapters show that memory in the media age is complex and multi layered. Television shapes public, national, and official memories, Vernacular media shape personal, local, and emotional memories. Both are powerful, both influence identity, and both are constantly interacting. That concludes section 3, media and memory. Now we will explore the idea of memory in place, how memory is rooted in landscapes, communities, and cultural locations. So section 4 focuses on two major contributions, Paul Basu's concept of memoryscapes and Amanda Kearney's exploration of ethnicity and memory. So let's dive in. Paul Basu introduces a fascinating concept called memoryscapes. These are landscapes, physical, emotional, cultural, where memories are anchored. A memoryscape can be a village, a city street, a family home, a migration route, or even a battlefield. These places hold emotional traces of the past. Basu argues that the past is not only stored in our minds, it is stored in space. People revisit places not just to see them, but to remember through them. To study memoryscapes, Basu emphasizes the importance of multi-sited methods. This means following people across different locations that shape their memories. For example, migration routes, diaspora communities, or sites connected by shared histories. Memoryscapes are rich with emotion. A place can evoke nostalgia, trauma, loss, belonging, identity. Walking through a memoryscape can bring the past to life in powerful ways. For Vasu, memory is not static. It often includes a movement from one place to another, across borders, across generations. These movements create layered, overlapping memoryscapes. In short, Vasu invites us to see memory as something embedded in the world around us, something we can walk through, revisit, and reconstruct. Next, Amanda Kearney explores the relationship between ethnicity and memory, how cultural identity shapes and is shaped by the act of remembering. Kearney argues that memory is deeply tied to cultural beliefs, rituals, traditions, and shared practices. Different ethnic groups remember differently because they value different stories, symbols, and histories. Ethnic memory helps define who we are. It creates a sense of belonging through myths of origin, ancestral stories, shared struggles, collective celebrations, community rituals. Here, memory becomes a way of holding a group together. Kearney also highlights how ethnic memory can preserve the memory of trauma, colonialism, displacement, violence, loss. These memories are passed down through generations, becoming part of ethnic identity. For many communities, remembering is an act of resistance, a way to reclaim suppressed histories, challenge dominant narratives, and assert cultural pride. Kearney reminds us that ethnic memory is not only verbal, it appears in dance, song, clothing, rituals, ceremonies, everyday practices. These embodied forms keep cultural identity alive. Together, Basu and Kearney shows us that memory is deeply tied to place and identity. Basu maps how memories live in landscapes and movement. Kearney shows how memory sustains ethnic identity and cultural continuity. Both chapters emphasize that memory is lived, felt, and located in bodies, in communities, and in the places that matter to us. That concludes section 4, locations and memory. In this segment, we move into some of the most sensitive and emotionally complex areas of memory research, what the editors call disturbed memories. These are memories shaped by trauma, loss, displacement, or difficult life events. They challenge not only the individual sense of self but also the researcher's role, responsibility, and ethical approach. The first chapter in this section, Painful Past, explores how memories of trauma are carried, narrated, and often silenced. Keatley and Pickering argue that traumatic memories do not follow the same patterns as everyday recollection. They may be fragmented, suppressed, or expressed indirectly through emotion, gesture, or gaps in narrative. The authors emphasize that when researchers work with painful memories, such as experiences of violence, oppression, or personal loss, the research process must be grounded in empathy, patience, and ethical sensitivity. They highlight the importance of creating safe spaces for sharing, understanding emotional cues, and recognizing that remembering itself can be an act of vulnerability. This chapter helps us see that memory research is not just about collecting stories, it is about honoring the weight of lived experience and acknowledging the courage it takes to remember. The final chapter, Disrupted Childhoods, shifts our attention to children and young people who have faced instability, such as those in foster care, residential homes, or other forms of state intervention. Aldridge and Dearden shows that childhood memories are deeply shaped by social systems. When children are moved between households or separated from their families, their sense of identity and continuity can be severely interrupted. Memory becomes fragmented, uncertain, or shaped by official narratives rather than personal ones. The chapter stresses that research involving children requires particularly careful ethical consideration. Their memories may be fragile, mediated by institutions, or influenced by power differences between adults and children. Through sensitive case studies and methodological insights, this chapter reveals how memory work can become a way for young people to rebuild continuity, articulate their experiences, and reclaim agency. Together, these chapters underline that memory is never just a cognitive process, it is emotional, embodied, and shaped by the social world. In section 6, the book turns toward two powerful forms of memory expression: confession and testimony. These are not just personal recollections, they are public acts shaped by moral responsibility, social pressure, and historical context. This section reveals how remembering becomes a performance and how individuals navigate the delicate balance between truth, accountability, and narrative. The first chapter introduces the concept of apologia, a form of self-justification or defense in which individuals explain, rationalize, or reinterpret their past actions. Elegia shows that apology and confession are not simple acts of admitting wrongdoing, they are strategic, rhetorical performances that construct a particular version of the self. Through discourse analysis, Telegia demonstrates how people use language to protect their reputation, claim moral legitimacy, or shift responsibility. Memory here becomes intertwined with social identity, politics, and power. The researcher's task is therefore to pay careful attention not only to what is remembered, but how it is remembered. The tone, the framing, the silences, and the narrative strategies that individuals use to defend or reconstruct their past. The final chapter, Testimony, explores memories that are shared publicly in the context of trauma, war, injustice, or historical violence. Testimony is a deeply moral and political act. It carries the weight of speaking for oneself and often for an entire community. Byford explains that testimonies are shaped by the settings in which they are delivered: courtrooms, truth commissions, media platforms, or documentary interviews. These environments influence how memories are narrated, what is emphasized, and what remains unsaid. The chapter highlights that testimony is not just a recounting of events, it is an act of witnessing, of making suffering visible, and of challenging collective silence. Researchers must therefore approach testimonies with a deep awareness of context, power, and ethical responsibility. Together, the chapters on apology and testimony reveal how memory becomes a performative act, one that shapes public identities, confronts past injustices, and contributes to collective understanding. In our final segment, we will bring together all the themes of the book and reflect on the broader significance of memory studies. To conclude, research methods for memory studies shows that memory is never just a personal act. It is social, emotional, political, and deeply shaped by the context in which it is shared. Across its sections, from identity and experience to media, space, trauma, and testimony, the book offers a rich toolkit for understanding how memories are formed, expressed, and interpreted. Whether we study everyday recollections or painful past, the text reminds us that memory is always a negotiation between the self and society. Thank you very much for watching the video. Have a great day.